Thank you all. My name's Kalki, Yalamanchili, and I'm running for District Attorney. And the reason I'm running for District Attorney is a lot of what Kevin just said to you. There are victims every day in our community that are not being served. There are victims that will never have justice, and there are victims waiting who are leaning upon a district attorney's office that is not equipped, not trained, and not capable of delivering justice for them. And I do not want to live in a community, I don't want to raise my two boys who are 6 years old and 4-year-old in a community with my wife where that's happening and know that I can do something about it and not do what I can. And that's why I'm running to be your next district attorney, deliver justice for all and protect victims' rights in our community. That's the reason that I'm running. It's hard to really adequately describe the disaster that is the current district attorney's office. It is. I've told people, I was chairman of the campaign committee for James Chafin, who ran against Deborah Gonzalez in the previous election. James is a dear friend of mine. He was my mentor when I was at the district attorney's office. And I tell people, if you told me while that campaign was going on that some of the things that have happened so far that we know about, and that's the other thing, this is the tip of the iceberg. Once we get in there, I shudder to think that things we're going to actually find that have been done that violate victims' rights and that mean that they won't have justice. But if you told me some of these things were happening, I would have said, okay, Chicken Little, let's not run around like the sky's falling. Surely those things will not happen, but it's the truth and it's worse. We have all the resources in this community. This is a great place to live and work. I loved the chance to come back here. I was in Metro Atlanta for about a year working as a prosecutor before I got the offer from the previous district attorney, Ken Malden, to come work in his office, prosecute felonies. That's something I knew I wanted to do with my career, and so I jumped at that opportunity to come back to Athens, where I'd gone to college. I left for law school, went to St. Louis for 3 years for law school, but I was excited about coming back to Athens. When Deborah Gonzalez took over that office, she essentially inherited a fully staffed office, which 17 assistant district attorneys and the elected district attorney. That office right now is less than 50% staffed at its attorney positions. Less than 50% staffed. And there are several of those people who aren't even licensed to practice law in the state of Georgia. Now, Ms. Gonzalez wants to blame a lot of things that aren't the reason for her staffing crisis. She wants to blame the fact that they pay more in Metro Atlanta. Well, I'm sure most of you won't be surprised to know that it costs more to live in Metro Atlanta as well. There are no staffing issues at the Solicitor General's office, which is a prosecuting office in Clarke County that prosecutes misdemeanors. There are no staffing issues at the county attorney's office, which is another attorney office, paid government salaries in Athens. And there are no staffing issues at the public defender's office, the people who are assigned by the court to represent folks who can't afford their own work. There are no staffing issues there, and they make less than the folks at the district attorney's office do. So, Kevin spoke for a little while about some of the ways in which Ms. Gonzalez is less than honest in her responses, and it's in an effort to shield herself from legitimate criticism. This isn't the order I was going to address things in, but honestly, I feel compelled to say this. It kind of came up when I did Tim Bryant's show, and it's come up again with this, allegation that a cut up electrical cord laying on a table is a noose, and the insinuations that she made about Judge Stevens, a man that I greatly respect and admire. And actually the first judge I was assigned to when I was at the DA's office. Spent my first several years in felony practice before Judge Stevens. He is a fair judge, and he is a judge that expects the state especially, all the lawyers that appear in front of him, but the state especially, if you come in and you are representing the people of the state of Georgia and you are asking the court to apply the full force of the government against someone, he expects you to know what you're doing. And these allegations she leveled, he had asked her prosecutor to be on time to court, and he had asked her prosecutor to have the witnesses there that were necessary for the hearing. Apparently, if you're a judge and you ask for those two simple things, you're a bully. So, I mean, that's what actually happened. And another thing on transparency, because that was one of the big things that she's always claimed, that she's for transparency. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I think another quote that she had in response to the transcript coming out, which, if y'all don't know, a transcript is what the court reporter takes down, which is the official record of what was said in court. Well, you know, if you read what happened, you would know that she wasn't describing what happened honestly. And so she referred to it as a leaked transcript. Well, courtrooms are public places. I don't really know what a leaked transcript is, since it's a public proceeding that's open to everyone and it's meant to be a public record. So I don't know what that is. We have got to have a change, because I've sat in rooms with people who've had the worst thing in their lives happen to them, or they have a loved one who's not here or who is here, but is not the same person because of what a criminal has done to them. I know what it is to sit with those people and see their pain. And we need to fill that office with a district attorney who honors that, who works to find those people justice in whatever way we can. We can't deliver full measure of justice a lot of times for what's been done to these folks. But we have to have a district attorney's office that understands that their first and primary duty is to seek justice for victims. And we have to have a district attorney who can staff an office with competent, experienced prosecutors that know how to get the job done. And we have to build a culture at the district attorney's office that isn't about self-preservation, re-election, and political advantage, and making sure that the district attorney has a great political career. We have to build a district attorney's office that understands that this is a public trust and a place for public service. It is not a place for political advancement. And that there is nothing partisan or political about seeking justice for victims, and there is nothing partisan or political about making sure that all of our rights are defended. That's the district attorney's office I want to create. That's why I'm running as a nonpartisan candidate. We have to return experience, integrity, and common sense to that office. Yes. And we have to build a culture that says we do the right thing the right way, regardless of whether anyone is watching, all of the time. And that's my goal, that's my platform. We have many challenges to face. The first is the staffing crisis. I think in a lot of ways, when I was thinking about this, praying about this, and considering whether or not I was going to do it, we had some family health issues. My wife just ended a year-long battle with cancer that really required me to spend a lot of time considering whether or not this was the right thing for me and my family. Thank God she's cancer-free now, and we're just coming in line. But when I was considering it, you know, I thought about a few things. One, I thought about our children and what we try to teach them is the right way to live your life. That when you see something wrong, just because it doesn't affect you directly doesn't mean you walk past it and go about your day. You address it. If you're situated in a position where you can be the person to address it, that's your job. That's what you should be doing, because that's the right thing to do. And I thought about what it means to live that in the community that I'm living in. And I thought about, you know, I teach a class at the law school at the University of Georgia. I've done it for 3 years now. Judge Stevens actually helps teach the class as well, and it's on criminal litigation. All right, so we got these second and third year law students. We teach them, you know, this is what a bond hearing looks like. These are the things you should be doing and thinking about. This is what this particular type of court hearing is like from the prosecution side and defense side. This is how you do it well. Here are things you shouldn't be doing in these types of situations. But what I really thought about is the fact that I tell those kids when they talk to us outside of, you know, the class assignment about being a lawyer, starting their careers, I would tell them all, the best job you can have as a lawyer is to be a prosecutor, because being a prosecutor is unique in that your job is to do what you think is right and just under the circumstances. And it kind of dawned on me as I was reflecting on this decision that if I'm telling a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds that, then what am I doing? You know, And so that's what came together for me to really help convince me that this was the right thing for me to be doing, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, my parents are, I think the mic went out, but I can talk loud without yelling, so that's not a problem. My parents are both physicians, and so people often ask me when I tell them I'm an attorney, it's, well, you know, I mean, why didn't you go to medical school? And the first thing I tell them is that for an Indian kid with two doctors as parents, it was my ultimate act of rebellion to go to law school. You know, it's the equivalent of getting one of those Mike Tyson face tattoos. But no, in all seriousness, I had discovered during college that science classes, things like that, that's not what held my interest. And I really have a strong interest in, you know, how does government function? What do our laws mean? How do we apply them? How do we handle those things as a society? And a lot of that comes from the fact that my parents were born and raised in a different country. And they never allowed us when we were growing up to take the great blessing, because that's what it is. It is a blessing from God to be born in this country. Amen. You know, we would go back, we're the only cousins in our generation of the family to be born in the United States. They've, for the most part, all moved from India and settled here, various parts of the country, physicians, computer engineers, various different careers, but we're the only ones born here. So we would go back to India every summer or every other summer. We took 2 vacations every year. Went down to Edgewater condos in Panama City Beach for spring break. And then the other vacation, we would just go to India. Right? And people would ask me, have you seen Taj Mahal? I said, well, not till I was like 20-something years old. Like, our trip was we land, we get in a car, go see 45 family members at different houses over 30 days, get back in the plane and come back. But really, one of the amazing things that showed me is just the incredible opportunities that there are here. There's poverty there that is families in the thousands and thousands living in slums that are nothing more than tent sticks and tarp thrown over the top. And, you know, to have the opportunity to go see where my parents came from and then see the school that I get to go to, the summer activities that I get to do, the community that I get to grow up in is amazing, you know, and it really, it drove that home for me. And it is a land of opportunity and freedom because of a foundational commitment to the rule of law. My dad tells an anecdote about a friend of his from medical school, and back then in India, if you graduated from medical school, you were trying to come to the United States or Europe, Great Britain, Australia. Just India was not in a good economic place back then. And so his friend goes down to the visa office, and he's been accepted into this residency program, all lined up, accepted by the country he's going to. He just needs to go down to the Indian government office where they give out visas in order to get his visa. So he goes first day, sits there, asks, I'm so-and-so, I'm here to get my visa. Sits there all day, it's not ready, not ready. Tell him, okay, leave, you gotta come back. You gotta come back, it's not ready today. Goes back, happens a second time. Well, he goes and he talks to his friends and he's explaining what happened, and they say, well, did you give the guy his bribe? Yeah. And it's like, no. They said, well, you're going to sit in that chair and they're going to tell your visa's not ready all day until you do that. He knows you're a medical student about to go leave to be a doctor in some Western country. He wants a little taste of the action. And so that's the experience that they came from as to compared to here, where our duty is to agree as citizens in a democracy what our rules are. Amen. And then apply those rules equally to every person, regardless of who they are. And that's the district attorney's job. And, you know, Kevin brought it up, where it's like secession, noose. Those are meant to do very specific things, which is to stoke in people fear and anger about things that have happened. I mean, there are things there are legitimate acts of racism that have happened in the past. There are legitimate acts of racism that occur in our community now, right? I got called a racial slur, you know, walking around downtown when I was in college here. But my parents, from a very young age, taught my sister and I both, that we are the people who define who we are.
Yes.
And the only way somebody else can define who you are is if you give them the power to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I choose to do is to reflect and put my focus about all the people in my life who have poured into me, of every race, of every religion that I've encountered, and not be focused on those negative aspects, because my parents also taught us that this is a country where your talents, your abilities, and your work ethic will take you as far as you are able to go. That's what this community is. And it's just incredibly sad to me that there is someone who would try to use for her own benefit the legitimate pain and suffering of people who have suffered from actual racism as a shield for citizens, her constituents, who expect accountability from her, to try to use that as a shield. I think it is the worst kind of political opportunism there is, and it's got to stop. These problems that we face, the problems that the criminal justice system addresses, are the problems of our community. And trying to drive wedges between our counties, trying to drive wedges between our citizens based on what they look like, gets us nowhere in solving our political problems. It may help Ms. Gonzalez's political viability in her own eyes, but it doesn't help this community. And it surely doesn't help victims of crimes, which is who she is supposed to be serving. You know, when I talk about common sense, people sometimes ask me, what is common sense? Well, common sense to me is saying that if somebody hurts somebody else, if somebody kills somebody else, if somebody sexually assaults somebody else, we need to put them in a place where they can't do it again, and we need to have the staff that's capable of doing that.
That's right.
Okay? Common sense also means realizing that there are a lot of offenses that are nonviolent, and then a lot of people who are committing some nonviolent offenses, and especially people who are committing, for the first time a nonviolent offense, oftentimes are suffering from some kind of substance abuse or mental health issue. Our system has evolved a lot, and one of the really, really great tools, and a tool that Judge Stevens is a great advocate for, and that all the judges that do these types of courts are great advocates for, are called accountability courts. So accountability courts are special institutions that are not institutions, but programs that a Superior Court judge will manage. And so, for example, there's one called Felony Drug Court. This is not just a little slap on the hand. This is an intense program that usually lasts 12 to 18 months. It requires the individual to go and meet usually weekly with the judge at the courthouse, along with the program director, counselors, and all the other participants. Outside of that meeting, they have individual counseling sessions, they have group counseling sessions, they're regularly drug screened, they're required to go to programs with education in areas that they need. There's oftentimes, there may be job training components connecting the individuals with job training, all with the goal of making sure that when that person completes their sentence or completes that court program, that they're less likely to reoffend. It's called recidivism, reoffending, recidivism. And it's been shown to lower that, right? And so you would think that Ms. Gonzalez, that holds herself out as a progressive, would have these programs packed to the gills. That's not the case. The Felony Drug Court, and this information is about a month old, it may have changed a little bit, is about half full. And the reason it's half full is that they are, by the last information that I received, roughly 1,700 cases that are unindicted, meaning that the district attorney's office, the police, go and arrest someone. And after they've arrested someone, that person doesn't show up in court, and there's already a document saying what offenses they're being charged with. The police make decisions about what they're going to arrest folks for, and then it's the district attorney's duty to review those cases and choose what formal charges will be filed in court, what language will be used in order to make those charges in consideration of what you're going to have to prove to a jury down the line. So that means that there are 1,700 cases that they haven't even made a charging decision on. So what does that mean? That means that there are people who could have been prosecuted, could have been connected with the resources that make it less likely that they're going to reoffend, but they're just out on bond, more than likely. And, you know, to give y'all some context for that, my former boss, Ken Malden, if the entire total in the office got up probably over about 100, 120 a courtroom, you're going to go see Ken. And he was going to want an explanation for why your intake numbers are so low and what's going on, right? Because that's the district attorney's job, is to manage her staff, manage her office, train people, and make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the reality of the situation is that we have a district attorney that isn't capable of doing those things. How do you supervise people and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing when you don't know how to do the job? How do you train people how to do the job the right way when you don't know how to do the job? The answer is you can't. Sure. And the answer is when you can't, you end up in the situation that we're looking at right now. You know, my parents also taught us a lot about how important it was for us to be active members of our community. My mom served on the board of the school that I went to, where my sister and I went to when we were younger. And they were both active in charitable organizations and charitable giving throughout the community. I've tried to reflect that as I've gone into private practice. I did not work for Deborah Gonzalez. I would not have worked for Deborah Gonzalez. I left that office in 2018, left on really good terms, went out and started my own practice. I'd always wanted to be my own boss and run my own organization. And when you're an attorney, you kind of got two options. You can start your own firm, way Kevin did, way I did, or you can choose to run for elected office. And at that time, what felt right for me was to go out and try my hand in the world of running your own law practice, and it's been great. But I missed the opportunity the district attorney's office gave me to serve, because that's what it is. It is a public service. I tried to fill that. You know, we're members of Athens Church. We attend there regularly. There's an organization, ACC SANE Inc., that offers forensic medical examinations and medical care to survivors of sexual assault. I'm on the board there. President-elect of the Rotary Club of Athens. Sorry if anybody's part of the other Rotary Club in town, or if you're a member of Kiwanis. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But, I've also, you know, I'm very honored to be the immediate past president of the Western Circuit Bar Association, and then I've also been appointed by the Supreme Court of Georgia as a special master for attorney disciplinary issues, meaning that I'm kind of like the ethics judge if the state bar brings an ethics complaint against someone who's practicing and may have violated the bar rules. But I'll be honest with you, all of that pales in comparison to the service you can offer the community through the district attorney's office. It really does. And that's, you know, why I'm so excited about this opportunity. People have asked me, it's only been about 6 weeks or so since we announced the campaign, and have been out, you know, doing interviews, going and speaking to groups, you know, how's it going? And what I've told them is, you know, you walk out on a limb, you never really know how you're gonna like it till you get out there. I love coming and talking to the people I share this community with, because I know we have everything we need, not just to fix the problems and have a district attorney's office where, you know, you say to yourself, it's fine. We have everything we need to have one of the best district attorney's offices in the state of Georgia. I've started conversations with experienced prosecutors I used to work with, and have grown to know and working in other circuits since I've started private practice. People will come back if there's the right leadership here. And we have one of the top 20 law schools in the country, 2 blocks from our courthouse downtown.
Yep.
Those people are going to need training. But once we put back in place a core of experienced, competent attorneys who understand that the job is to do the right thing the right way, regardless of anybody's watching, and understand their duty is to seek justice for victims of crimes, the young people will come in, and the reputation of that office will be what it should be, which is a place to come if you want to serve your community, and a place to come if you want to become a great attorney. But I'm not, this isn't some speech about how I'm just here to save the world, because that's not how this works. We live in a democracy, and it's going to take us going out and talking to our neighbors, talking to folks who may be less engaged day to day in what's happening in our community, and tell them about the things that we're learning about what's happening in our district attorney's office. Tell them about the active harm. This isn't benign neglect. This is active harm that is being done to crime victims. They are being re-victimized by this. And it's not right, and we can fix it if we come together and we decide it's important enough. We have everything we need to fix this problem. We've just got to get it out and make it a priority for folks who may not know what's going on. Because I'll tell you something right now. If the people in our community hear the things that are happening to victims, some of the things that Kevin's talked about tonight, you can't hear that and not be driven to do something.
Yes.
You can't. I mean, that is a level of pain and suffering that if you have any compassion for the people that we share this community with, you can't just walk past it and just shrug your shoulders. People are going to want to change. People want to change. You can feel it out there when you go and talk to folks. And I'm ready to be part of the solution.